let's see how some of our favorite anime characters stack up in a real-life MMA division. Today, we're taking a look at welterweights. Hey guys, and welcome back to Anime MMA, the series where we talk about our favorite anime characters and how their martial arts would do in real-life MMA. As always, I'm your host, amateur MMA fighter, Brazilian Jiujitsu instructor, and most importantly, huge anime fan, HoHo Chubbles. And today I'm going to be drawing upon my over 15 years of martial arts knowledge to analyze the martial arts of some of our favorite characters, all to determine how they would do in a real-life fight. Now, as I said before, today we are covering the welterweight division, or under 170 pounds. In my opinion, one of the best divisions that the UFC has to offer. And not just because it's one of the divisions I fight in. But why are we separating these characters by weight class anyway? Well, first, because it's the way they do it in real-life martial arts, and second, because I don't want this video to be 5 hours long. But most importantly, we're analyzing the martial arts of these characters without powers. And when it comes to real-world martial arts, weight is a huge factor when it comes to determining the outcome of a fight, affecting everything from power to speed to cardio, and everything else you could imagine in a martial arts bout. I know, it's hard to hear. Just because your favorite anime protagonist can beat a 400-pound monster doesn't mean you can, no matter how many Saturday karate classes you took at the Y with Master Jeff. Now, before we begin, a quick reminder of our rules as always. We are taking the minds of our characters and placing them in the body of a real-life MMA fighter. That means no powers, no special abilities. Basically, if you can't do it in real life, you can't do it here. So sorry guys, if you came here to hear about how Vegeta would punch a hole straight through George St. Pierre's chest, you came to the wrong place. Plus, I don't think YouTube would let us show that, though it would be pretty cool. That said, we're eliminating anything that could be even remotely considered a power, so super strength, other forms, visual abilities that allow you to track your opponent's movements at superhuman levels, all of those are off the table. That's right guys, you're not going to be cheating your way out of this one. No, we're only considering the martial arts that our characters currently have, and if they would work in real life. And on a final note, we are only using characters that have an official stated weight, so if you don't see a character that you think should be on this list, it's possible that I just couldn't find an official weight listed for them. Or maybe I just forgot, so feel free to let me know in the comments below. And now with all the housekeeping out the way, starting off at the bottom of our list, in the 9th contender place, we have Asta from Black Clover. Standing at 5'1" and weighing 168 pounds, Asta would be incredibly small for the welterweight division. That said, being so short and with the strength training that Asta has, I have no doubt that he would have some one-punch knockout power. Unfortunately for Asta, however, that's about all he'd have. You see, Asta is a swordsman, and he doesn't really take much time to train anything other than that. Well, anything apart from his body. I mean, for real, look at those abs. Dude is absolutely swole. You don't get abs like that from sitting around reading books like some nerd mage. Still, when it comes to fighting both in real life and in anime, strength isn't everything. You have to have some technique to go with it. Well, unless you're in Dragon Ball Z, but that's a story for another day. And while Asta no doubt has the work ethic to master any martial art he would want to pick up in record time, as far as we know from the anime, he is not super adept when it comes to hand-to-hand combat. Plus, we can't really factor in work ethic and drive when every anime protagonist around also has a similar work ethic and drive. I mean, seriously, it's like a requirement to be a main character in anime. So considering just what he has now, I'm comfortable with him taking the bottom place on our list. Next up, coming in at our number 8 contender spot, we have Grimmjow Jaegerjack. Not really sure how you pronounce that, but you get the point. Standing at 6'1" and weighing 176 pounds, Grimmjow is much more of a hand-to-hand fighter, which would give him the edge over Asta. Sure, he might not be as short and jacked as Asta, but he does have an actual fighting style. Grimmjow is not a traditionally trained martial artist, but he does have a style that seems a bit similar to karate. Unfortunately, however, it's not real karate, just something similar. When compared to the later characters on our list, however, his style just isn't refined enough to win. He tends to use a lot of big looping strikes in this kind of cat-tiger fighting style that he made up, and while this is something that might be effective in the Bleach universe, it's not really going to be effective in the real world. But who knows, maybe if his opponent had a sword, he'd do a little bit better. With all that said, I'm a lot more comfortable leaving him at the number 8 spot on our list. Now coming in at number 7, we have our first character without powers, Draken from Tokyo Revengers. Standing at 6'1" and weighing 176 pounds, Draken is a delinquent brawler, but that's not all he is. You see, Draken is the best friend and second in command to Mikey, the strongest delinquent in the Tokyo Revengers universe. But unlike most delinquents you see in anime, Mikey is a true martial artist, having grown up in his family martial arts dojo. Now that said, I'm not comparing Draken to Mikey in the fact that Mikey is a prodigy and great at martial arts, but he did train with Mikey on several occasions, using a style that combines things like Aikido, Judo, Karate, and Jiu-Jitsu. When combined with the fact that Draken is used to fighting in a realistic way against realistic opponents on a human level, Draken is definitely going to have a bigger advantage than some characters whose whole fighting style is based on punch it till it dies. So with all that considered, I'm comfortable placing Draken at the number 7 spot on our list. Coming in at number 6 on our list, we have Emiya from the Fate series. Standing 6'1" and weighing in at 171 pounds, Emiya is a bit of a wild card. You see, as the archer summons, there's not a whole lot of chances we get to see Emiya fighting hand to hand, but we do know that he is exceptionally good when it comes to things like swordplay. But as we've established, swordplay does not really help us when it comes to determining the outcome of a real-life MMA match. No, you see, when analyzing Emiya's fight style, we have to take a look at his past. Emiya was a hero for justice who fought in militaries all across the world. After dying, he was resurrected as a guardian spirit and fought in wars across time. Now, because of this, we know that Emiya is going to have some martial arts knowledge in a military facet, having learned from martial artists all over the world throughout history. Unfortunately, however, a lot of this is assumption, so we can't really raise him much higher than this on our list, and we've got other characters with much more established styles. That said, we do know that he has the ability to fight hand to hand and some formal training, so while I am comfortable placing him at the number 6 spot, he is a bit of a wild card, and if you want to argue that his knowledge should put him higher or lower, I'll be open to that. And as controversial as Emiya's number 6 placement might be, there's no way he'll be as controversial as the number 5 spot on our list. Seriously, this one's probably going to start some fights, because coming in at our number 5 contender spot, we have Vegeta from Dragon Ball. Standing at 5'5" and weighing 170 pounds, Vegeta is a complete hand-to-hand martial artist. Now, because of how well loved the Dragon Ball series is and how well it's known for martial arts, people will be tempted immediately to say he should be at the number 1 or 2 spot on any martial arts list. However, we have to analyze how well Vegeta's martial arts would do in real life, and when we look at it, it just doesn't hold up. You see, Vegeta practices the Saiyan martial art, and unfortunately for our purposes, the Saiyan martial arts are based on having Saiyan powers. That means things like super strength flight and ki blast. When compared to someone like his rival Goku, who is trained in traditional Eastern style martial arts, Vegeta's just don't really relate to what humans would actually do. If you look at most of his fights, while he does tend to pick up a little bit from Goku and show some aspects of things like kickboxing and boxing, his style is much less refined and goes towards the brawler category. He tends to leave himself very open, never putting up a guard, and throwing big, wide swinging punches with a lot of power. Vegeta also tends to do what a lot of anime characters do and stick his hands out to block and catch each punch thrown at him, or try to dodge it altogether. And while this style of fighting may work when you have superpowers and super senses like it does in anime, in real life it's not quite so effective. Real fighters might have the ability to block and catch 1 or 2 punches and even slip or dodge a few in a row, but eventually they will get caught. Now, given the fact that almost none of the fighters below him hold a guard up either, he would have no problem beating them, and his experience as a lifelong hand-to-hand combat fighter would give him the edge, so I wouldn't go as far as to say as he'd lose to anybody with some martial arts training. That said, if he comes into contact with someone with a more refined style who is of similar strength and speed, and he doesn't have the ability to zoom around them at light speed, he's gonna struggle to land a hit. So as much as it pains me, and as much as I know I'm gonna get a lot of Dragon Ball fanboy hater comments, I'm gonna have to place him here at the number 5 spot on our list. Now, if you found that upsetting, you're probably not gonna be happy with some of the fighters above him, because at the number 4 contender spot, we have Sanji Vinsmoke from One Piece. Standing at 5'10" and weighing 176 pounds, Sanji fits well at the number 4 spot on our list because his martial arts style is heavily based on a few real-world martial arts. Among those various martial arts, we can look at things like Muay Thai, Taekwondo, Savate French kickboxing, and probably most iconically, Capoeira kickboxing. Now, to start things off, Sanji tends to do a lot of foot fencing, kicking with the tips of his feet and sticking them out for maximum distance. Combining that with his stance of standing super tall and leaning back far to reach those kicks to higher points, we can see influences from things like Taekwondo and Savate. And it should come as no surprise that Savate French kickboxing is in his style when we consider the fact that Savate was developed on French ships and Sanji is himself supposed to be a French sailor, at least according to Oda. And if we look at these styles of martial arts, they are effective in MMA. We have fighters like Benson Henderson and Anthony Pettis who utilize styles like Taekwondo, and fighters like Czech Congo utilizing Savate. Going down the list from there, we've got Capoeira. Now this one is not necessarily the most realistic fighting style. In fact, I'd say it's probably one of the most useless fighting styles in the world, but that's personal opinion. Capoeira is a Brazilian style of kickboxing that involves a lot of flips and standing on your hands while utilizing your kicks. And while this style of fighting is very cool to look at and is really interesting to see in movies and TV, in real life it's just not that effective. For one thing, the style is incredibly tiring and leaves its practitioner open to attacks, but more than that, it's just very hard to reach your opponent with this kind of style. You see, if somebody's standing on their hands swinging these big looping kicks that are easy to see, all you have to do to avoid it is step back a couple feet, because believe it or not, you can move a lot quicker on your feet than somebody can on their hands. Crazy, it's almost like we were designed that way. But Sanji's not completely hopeless because he does tend to utilize a fighting style that seems akin to Muay Thai, and Muay Thai is one of the most widely practiced martial arts in modern day MMA. In fact, if we look at Sanji's signature move, the Diable Jambe, we see Sanji taking on a Muay Thai stance, holding his hands up in a Thai guard and holding his knee up in the Thai style. This means that Sanji is going to have a very easy time deflecting a lot of kicks and punches coming his way. And while he doesn't throw punches personally because he wants to protect his hands, he can at least guard himself, which is more than most of our characters below him will do. And with that said, I'm comfortable placing him at the number 4 contender spot on our list. But if you want to argue he should be lower than the previous 2 contenders, I wouldn't fight you too much on it. Coming in at our number 3 spot, we have Itadori Yuji from Jujutsu Kaisen. Standing at 5'8", weighing 176 pounds, he's not the tallest on our list, but I wouldn't call him a short king by any stretch of the means, so he's not going to get too outclassed by some of the taller fighters. But height is not the only thing Itadori has going for him, as Itadori is no slouch when it comes to martial arts. Sure, he is not a pure martial artist trained in a tournament style, but he is very good at hand-to-hand combat. And if we look at his style, we can see that it mimics mostly a karate style. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if both his mangaka and animators were inspired from watching a lot of karate videos, as he does tend to pull off a lot of crisp and well-executed techniques. Everything from his kicks to punches are very similar to things we would see in real life. I mean, we even get to see him pull off some boxing and kickboxing style fighting. That is definitely going to be the reason why he's placed above Sanji. But even more importantly than that, Yuji tends to do something that none of the fighters below him do, and that is keep his hands up in a boxing stance. Now, when it comes to any style of fighting, having your hands up is going to be the most useful asset you can have. Fighters all the way from the lowest levels to the top professionals are constantly told by their coaches, keep your hands up, keep your hands up, keep your hands up. Now, while movies and TV might not lead you to believe this, in real life it's absolutely essential. Now, when you combine that with Yuji's natural athleticism and his ability to utilize realistic styles, I think it's completely appropriate to put him at our number 3 contender spot. But that said, there's no way in a million years he could compete with our number 2 contender, Might Guy from Naruto. Standing at 6 foot even and weighing 168 pounds, Might Guy is a true hand-to-hand martial artist and a master of taijutsu. Now, saying someone's a master of taijutsu is kind of a vague way of saying they're really good at hand-to-hand combat. You see, taijutsu is a general term for any kind of hand-to-hand fighting. So even though you have 2 characters that are considered masters of taijutsu, their fighting styles might be completely different and they might not know anything about the other person's fighting style. And as such, it's important that we narrow down what Might Guy's fighting style is. It should come as no surprise that a lot of his stances and techniques are based off of Bruce Lee. And believe it or not, if it was the case that his style was completely the same as Bruce Lee's, he would fall much shorter on this list. Bruce Lee utilized Kung Fu and Jeet Kune Do, which are admittedly not the most effective in modern martial arts. Might Guy, however, does not stop at this point. He displays a lot of good karate, kickboxing, and taekwondo techniques between his kicks from various angles, not only relying on the high-flying, spinning techniques that you see in other anime characters, though he most certainly does utilize those at times. Still, just like Itadori, Might Guy also uses a high guard at times, so he's definitely not afraid to box when he needs to. Combining this with the fact that he is well aware of other martial arts styles in the Naruto universe, we can assume that his knowledge does not end at what is displayed. And given the fact that Ninja and Naruto do have a basic knowledge of grappling, we can assume he'll do better than them on the ground as well. In fact, if he had a bit more grappling under his belt, I might be able to place him one above at our number 1 contender spot, but for now I'm comfortable with him holding the number 2 contender spot on our list. But grappling is truly going to be the determining factor here in our next 2 fighters, because coming in at our number 1 contender, we have Akisame Koetsuji from Kenichi the History's Mightiest Disciple. Standing at 5'11 and weighing 176 pounds, Akisame definitely has the advantage here when it comes to grappling. He is a judo and jiu-jitsu master who not only excels when it comes to the takedown, but when it comes to submissions as well, something seriously lacking in our other fighters. Now, Akisame is not only a master of his martial art, but he is very knowledgeable when it comes to other martial arts that we see in the real world. You see, Akisame is a master at Ryozanpaku, a gathering place of martial arts masters from around the world, which includes a Muay Thai master, karate master, kung fu master, among others. Now, if Akisame were simply a grappler, I might not have him so high, but he does have striking as well, not only implied knowledge from the other fighters in his series, but also striking that he displays throughout his fights in the series. So given this superior level of grappling and experience fighting other realistic martial arts, I have to put him at this number 1 contender. That said, Akisame is a single style heavy, which while effective in the original UFC, is not something that is so viable in the modern era of fighting, which is why I think he would struggle against our champion. Because if you know anything about martial arts and anime, you should have seen this coming. The reigning undisputed anime MMA champion of the welterweight division is Baki Hanma from Baki. Because I mean, come on, seriously. Who else would it be? Standing at 5'6" and weighing 168 pounds, Baki would actually be a little bit small for the division, but a bit too big to place him in the division below. But that is about the only disadvantage he has, and being 5'6" is not completely unheard of when it comes to the welterweight division. Now, when it comes to real life martial arts, Baki will have no problem because he knows about every martial art there is in the real world, and some that are not so real, but we can discount those for now. Raised by his father, the strongest creature on earth, Baki has been trained in all sorts of martial arts. Everything from boxing, kickboxing, Muay Thai, karate, wrestling, jiu-jitsu, Brazilian Jiujitsu, kung fu, taekwondo, you name it, he knows it. But the same can be said for a lot of martial arts masters in anime. What makes Baki unique is not only does he know of these martial arts, he utilizes them frequently in his fights. And while he also tends to mix in things that I would consider superpowers, like breaking through steel walls or stopping earthquakes with his hands, he utilizes enough realistic martial arts for me to say that he would be effective in the real world. On top of this, Baki has experience like none of the other characters would. He's fought martial artists from every corner of the globe and fought in tournaments of every type. Everything from to the death tournaments, MMA tournaments, to underground martial arts, he's done it all. And he's done it even at a realistic level. In his younger days, he used to fight delinquents and professional kickboxers for fun to prove that he was strong. As he got older, he took place in karate tournaments and beat world-renowned black belts. When all that wasn't enough for him, he traveled around North and South America fighting against martial arts masters of all different disciplines and challenging dojos left and right. And he's even come up against fighters that we know in the real world. Or at least fighters named after characters we know in the real world. But let's face it, I'm not exactly reaching to say that Muhammad Ali and Muhammad Ali might be the same person.
They're the same picture.
So with all that considered, when it comes to grappling, stand-up, takedown, Baki is gonna be the undisputed champion of the 170-pound division. And that's our list. But don't take my word for it. Maybe I'm wrong. Let me know in the comments below. If you like what I do, be sure to like, share, follow, subscribe to let me know I should keep doing it. Don't forget to leave a comment letting me know if I forgot anyone and who you want to see next. And as always, thanks for watching.